Hello everyone and welcome back to Happy Farm Life. My name is Sierra Richard. I'm a pharmacist who's dedicated to helping you pass your MPJE. Why am I qualified to do this? Well, I'm a recent graduate. I graduated in 2019 and passed not one, but two MPJEs, all while in residency. Yes, it is possible to do that, but I'm going to have to tell you how because I wish somebody would have told me. So let's start with the MPJE basics. This is a 2.5 hour long exam. Not nearly as bad as that 6-hour NAPLEX, but still long. It's 120 questions, 100 which are scored and 20 which are not. Taking the exam is going to cost you roughly $100 that you don't want to have to pay again or wait to take later, so we want you to pass the first time. First off, I highly recommend checking out those competency statements. If you watch my NAPLEX video, I called them objectives. I apologize for the confusion, but they are called competency statements, and that basically tells you what the objectives are and what they're going to test over, what they care about. That's why you should read them. Yes, it's a long, boring document, but it really helps narrow down, especially for the federal area. It also tells you and shows you what type of questions are on the exam. So you have multiple choice questions. You can also get a select all that apply question where you have to have check boxes for each one, and then ordered response where you move them around in the order you think that they go. Simple enough, but good to know because there are no open response questions like there are on the NAPLEX. Which is good, but I can tell you right now that those select all that apply, tricky. So how do you master those tricky questions? You gotta study. In order to pass, you have to get a 75 score out of 100. That does not mean a 75%, and here is why. This is a scaled score. Nobody really knows what this means, but what we do know is the test questions get harder as you answer them correctly. So, a good sign is you're getting hard questions because it's upping your score level, which are apparently worth more points. I'm going to be honest, I don't know how true that is, but it did feel that way when I took the exam, both the first time and then the second time. So things to think about on your test day. If it's getting harder, that's probably good. Also remember that there's 20 questions not scored, so if you got it wrong, you feel like it's real confusing and you have no idea what it's asking, there's a good chance that it's not going to be scored, so don't let it bother you. That's like one of the easiest things you can let bother you during the exam and throw you off for the rest of it. Don't let those things get in your head. Just try to focus on each question individually and try your best to get through it. We all had to just get through it. So what you really want to know is what resources do you use to get there? How do you get to that passing point? How do you ace that MPJE? My first recommendation is to study your federal law. This is actually probably harder to figure out than your state law because there's not the greatest guides out there for you. If you were going to study one and only one thing, study the DEA Pharmacist Manual. The DEA Pharmacist Manual, I will link it down below for you, is your greatest resource. You will want to use it. You will want to read it in its entirety, highlight it, do whatever you want. The thing is, it is absolutely free on the DEA website. If you don't use it, you're doing something wrong. You need to read this. I felt like it really helped me a ton on both my Missouri and my Texas MPJE. Next is using pharmacyexams.com. I use this for the federal portion. It has a CD-ROM and downloadable portion, and let me tell you, that site looks outdated and you're like, I don't know about this, it's a little sketchy. Purchase it. Give them your money. If you are somebody who likes to take practice questions and then have the answers written out and spelled out for you, I highly recommend it. I will say I don't feel like they covered all the laws that I wanted them to cover, so I do recommend reading those competency statements and see what they missed, and then going back, and I'm going to be honest, I used the DEA manual and pharmacyexams.com and then Googled the things that I didn't know fully or thought I needed more information on when I looked at the competency statements, and I felt really comfortable with the federal law. Gonna be honest, I think that is all you really need. State law is where things get a little trickier. The first thing you want to go to for state law is your Board of Pharmacy website. And you may be thinking, well, there's no guide, there's no information, there's just all the laws, which some states, I apologize to y'all, you're gonna just have to look all the laws up and just read the law book, which is not something anybody wants to do. They don't want to waste the paper to print it all out. They don't want to read it because it's boring. And let's be honest, we didn't go to law school. At least most of us. I know there's exceptions, but you're probably not watching this video. So Board of Pharmacy has a few options that are helpful. First off is any guides that they have. Maybe the top 10 compliance issues that are out there. They're likely going to test on that if people are screwing it up all the time. Guides for PICs, so the pharmacist in charge guide, compliance guides for them, those are super helpful. Any CE quizzes that they have available or CE courses that go over pharmacy law review, all of that is super helpful. And if you're lucky, like the state of Missouri, you have a complete pharmacy practice guide available to you online. Now, some of you are thinking, Sierra, I don't live in Missouri. I don't have that. You're right, you don't. But I have more for you, so just hang in there. Next up, looking at your state associations. Tons of state associations have law CE courses that you can take too. Those are also reviews, other compliance guides and things like that. So looking for similar resources for state associations where you are going to test. Now that does make it a little harder if you are moving to a state where you don't live and maybe aren't a part of the state association, but see if they have those options. It may be worth becoming a member just to access those resources to study. Now, if you don't want to do that, the great thing is those same pharmacyexams.com CD-ROM/downloadables are available. So you can download those directly to your computer or get the CD-ROMs. I did the direct download. I didn't do it for the state of Missouri because that's the state I was living in. I knew that law a lot better, and I told you they had the free practice guide, but I did use it for Texas, and I found it super helpful. It's also affordable, and if you're going to be doing multiple states, you can do a package of the different options. This is totally not sponsored. I wish they would, because I would still promote them because I love them. They truly help me pass my MPJEs, guys, so highly recommend them. But if you don't want to do that, you're like, I'm not a quiz person, that's fine. The cool thing is that pharmacytimes.com actually compiled a list of different state books and resources. So this is the one I used for Texas, the Texas Ultimate MPJE Guide. They have a new one out each year. So if you're in Texas, I highly recommend this one. But that Pharmacy Times document that I'm going to leave down below lists all the resources for the different states that you might like. And if you want a book for the federal law, it also shows those options. So I will leave that down below for you guys to browse. I will tell you, there is another good resource that you can use as well for your state. So hold on. It's this printout. So this is the black and white version, but this is the TLDR MPJE worksheet. I also used this as well for Missouri because it did have that big long practice guide, but this was kind of my study cheat sheet and I like to write stuff down. It basically asks the big questions that are mentioned in those competency statements and you can write them in nice and neat. Also, rumor has it that they are coming out in the future with state-specific ones that are already filled out. I can't tell you when that's available, if and when that happens, but you can definitely purchase this worksheet and it is worth your money to set aside time to fill it out. Again, link in the description. I almost forgot to tell you, there is one website I do not recommend. rphbuddy.com, I actually purchased this one first, and I found for Missouri that there were several errors in this. Completely wrong information, answers to questions that were not correct, so I don't recommend them at all. Please do not use them. I know for a fact that the Missouri information is incorrect. Obviously not all of it, but there were about 5 questions that I knew that were wrong. So here are some last tips and thoughts about how I studied and what I think is best. So I studied for about 5 days for my Missouri MPJE because I knew it a little bit better. And then I studied a little over a week and a half for my Texas MPJE. Again, if you're doing Texas, I read this book twice all the way through, and that's what I did to study, and I passed, had a great score. For Missouri, I did the same thing, read through their practice guide twice, did good. From what I've read, usually 20 plus hours is kind of the average study time for the MPJE, which is a lot shorter than your NAPLEX because it's less material. But a lot of people are intimidated by it because law doesn't come as natural as pharmacy to most of us. So some things I did to help with that is focusing on numbers because I felt like those were easy things to test on. What I did to try to remember those numbers, which is also good whenever you're practicing, is to group them. I would have a 24-hour card, and these are the things that would need to be reported to the board in 24 hours. This is the 2 weeks card. This is all the things that would happen in a 2-week time frame. And so I would just have cards for all the different times and hours of reporting, and that was super helpful for me to figure out, okay, I have to retrieve something in 2 hours, but I also have to report this in 2 hours, and kind of grouping them together so I all thought, okay, these are all the 2-hour things, these are all the 24-hour things. and just had those little cards. And so I would like flip those cards and study through those cards. It was really helpful. My next recommendation is just to really reason through what you are looking at. When you are stuck on a question, just try to reason through it. And you're like, that's hard. Sometimes you come across a question where, for example, everything seems like it's illegal. Obviously it's not if they're asking you what legal thing you can do. So pick the one that seems the least illegal. I don't know, it worked for me. Also, always keep in mind, if you know that there's a state law and a federal law on something, to pick the one that is the most strict. So that sometimes it's the federal law, sometimes that's the state law. It really doesn't matter which one it is. You just need to pick the one that is the most strict. I know times are tough right now for those of you who are graduating, so I hope that you find this helpful. If you have any questions, please leave them down in the comments below. Also, if you are taking your test, I would love to know when you are taking your test and what your test date is. Leave that down below, as well as letting me know what you think was the most helpful tip from this. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to hit that subscribe button down below, because guess what? There's one more board prep video coming. It is a Q&A, stuff that you guys have been asking, what you want to know about the testing center, the calculator, how to ace those calculations. Guess what? It's all coming to you soon, next week, on this channel, so make sure you subscribe, and I will see you next time. Bye!